Welcome to Diet Rebellion, the podcast that's here to help you break free from the chains of dieting and finally take control of your health, strength, and confidence. I'm Joe Hoye, your host and the founder of Diet Detox. After transforming the lives of thousands of women over 40 who have been trapped in the endless diet cycle, I'm here to show you a new way. One that focuses on eating for your body's needs, restoring your metabolism, and rebuilding your strength for life. Get ready for real, no bullshit conversations, expert insights, and actionable strategies that empower you to live diet-free and thrive. It's time to stop restricting and start rebuilding. Join the rebellion. Your journey starts now. Susan Niebergall is, of course, the owner of Susan Niebergall Fitness, but she's also the co-coach in the Syatt Fitness Inner Circle with the one and only Jordan Syatt. Now, if you're not familiar with him, take a second during or after this podcast to also get acquainted with him. He is a leader in the space and incredible at what he does. But back to Susan. She is an online strength coach with a passion for helping people change their lives by showing them it's never too late to feel better, to move better, to lose fat, or just to simply build strength and muscle. Now, Susan is 64 years old, and she says that she's made every mistake in the book, but she was also able to turn it all around in her mid-50s, and her goal now is to empower you to do the exact same thing. Okay, change is possible at any age, and Susan is the living, breathing example that it is truly never too late. So hang out with myself and Susan in this episode and enjoy. Susan, welcome to Menopause from a Man. We just talked for 4 minutes before I hit record, and you are absolutely amazing, and you have a basketball hoop behind you, which shows me that you're fun. Welcome on. How are you?
Girl.
Are you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm a DC sports girl.
Okay.
I am football number one. Number one. So I'm a huge Redskins fan. I grew up season ticket holder. And yeah, born and bred at that. It's in my blood. So yeah, I'm chomping at the bit to get that thing going.
Die hard, huh? Did you grow up playing sports or just kind of watching them?
No, I really didn't. I was more of a music kid. My undergrad is in music education. And so I was a music kid, but a sports fanatic. So I never really played. I did like softball, I think 1 year or something like that. I just wasn't into doing that. I didn't have enough confidence in myself. I did play some pretty vicious flag football though, co-ed flag football. Yeah,
Fun.
in my
Super
20s.
fun.
Yeah, I was on the line and people couldn't stop me. You know, they couldn't stop me. So
yeah, you seem very competitive. So I'm curious if you grew up around sports, you didn't really play a lot. What happened? Like, how did you get into this?
You know, that's interesting. So I was a music educator. I was in the school system as a teacher for 33 years. Shortly into that, I got my master's in counseling, my master's degree in counseling. So I became a school counselor for most of my educational career. And during all of this time, I went to the gym like any other person and took a class. That's kind of where that whole thing started for me. And like other people, you find the most energetic instructor, the group of people, you don't know their names, but y'all know each other because you keep going to the same class. You have a lot of fun, and that keeps bringing you back. And that's how I got started kind of in the gym. And then that led to working with trainers for different gyms for different years, and grow to love it, you know, to the point where I don't remember, I was in my 40s, I guess, when I finally got certified as a personal trainer, because I thought, well, here I am, a school counselor. I do nothing but talk to people for a living. You know, I try to get people to talk to me. I try to get stuff out of people. That and the love of being in the gym are like a great marriage, you know, because that's what we do, right? And I use my counseling skills every single day, you know, so it's been that part of being a trainer I haven't had to concern myself with as much because it's part of what I've done for most of my life. So I became a trainer and had a part-time gig at a gym while I went to the school as a school counselor. I'd leave on Tuesdays and Thursdays and go to the gym and train people till like 8 p.m. So that's how I got my start, my hands-on start. And that just led to, I retired from the school system about 7 years ago, and I was training teachers after school in the weight room at the school. And that became my business. That's how my business started, in person. And then some of them switched over to kind of virtual, and maybe once a week I'd see them. And then I became all virtual eventually, and had a roster of clients. And then, you know, I was working with Jordan as my coach. And then as time went on, I'm like, you know what? I really want to do the inner circle with him. So I kind of phased out my one-on-ones. A lot of them moved over into the inner circle. And so now we've been doing the inner circle together now for probably 8 years, maybe something like that. And so that's now where most of my training focus and coaching focus is.
That's a really big similarity with myself. And I
Yeah.
think I think not just me, but I think a lot of coaches that are doing it for the right reasons
Yeah.
is it was just this natural progression or transition, whatever you want to
Yeah.
say, of I have this passion. Enough people needed my help or wanted my help that it turned into something that I need to charge for. It continued to grow, and 6 years, 8 years later, look at me now.
Yeah.
And I never actually thought about that, but God, as a school counselor, you're a coach. Like,
Yeah.
you're motivational interviewing, you're learning what makes people tick, why are they stuck, how can you help them get past that. So I've never been through your coaching, but I would imagine you're pretty damn good at it.
I mean, I would like to think that, but it's so funny because as a counselor, there are often times where, the tough love piece had to come in with some of these
Yep.
kids because I just wanted to shake them, and obviously, I mean, I didn't, but boy, did I ever want to on some of those kids. But I think the tough love piece is really important. It's not only the compassionate piece, but there are times where, as a coach, we have to do the tough love bit, because a
Yes.
lot of people need that in order to progress to the next step or whatever it is. And so I think that also is part of coaching, has been something that I feel like the tough love part of me has gotten even more prevalent as I've gotten older. And I don't know if that's just I'm getting to be an old cranky person or what. I think that's part of it, to be perfectly honest. But because it's frustrating, because most of the people that I coach, and even in the inner circle, I've been in their shoes.
Yeah.
So I get exactly what's happening, especially the middle-aged women. I thought my metabolism had slowed down. I went to the doctor for all the tests. I was ready to get the medication until I found out my blood work was fine. And then I had to really start looking at, okay, what have I really done? Let's be honest here. For the first time, my mom would call that a come to Jesus meeting. I really had to have one with myself, like, what am I really doing everything right? You know how we hear that I'm doing everything right and nothing works. I was that girl. And I
Yeah.
was also, God forbid, the clean eating girl.
So
I was that person too.
maybe, just maybe, you weren't doing everything right, which is something that I hear all the time. Well, I don't know, Joe. I'm doing everything right, but it's
Yep.
just not working.
Yep.
And that is where that tough love conversation needs to come in, because I think a lot of coaches get it wrong. It's like, hey, I'm going to be your coach. I'm going to be your best friend. I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. And that's great sometimes.
Yeah.
Other times you got to be like, yeah, no, I am going to shake you through this Zoom call and tell you that, hey, I'm going to be a little rough here. I'm going to give you tough love. You need to know that it's coming from a good place and I want to see you succeed, but I'm going to tell you what you need to hear today, not what you want to hear. So I love that you can do that. I
Yeah.
also love that you've been in these women's shoes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
tell me what those shoes are like.
Yeah, I like to say women in my age, I mean, I'm 64 for the record. And women in my age bracket, we're a pain in the ass as clients, I think. I mean, at first we're a pain in the ass. And the reason is we've gone through decades of just crap, I mean, and we have the right to speak in decades now because we're at this age, right? It makes more sense. It's a lot of time to have these crappy diets thrown out, these crappy information, all these things that we tried because it was the thing, and it was the thing that everyone said was the thing at the time. And we just got more damaged and damaged and damaged every time we hopped to the next thing. And so we come to the table with some baggage. And that's the hardest part, I feel like, to deal with. Even for me, and having gone through all of that and understanding this baggage, it's still frustrating because some people have their heels dug in. And while they know what is not things that are not working for them, it's scarier to think of changing something and then maybe afraid of not succeeding yet again. And that's a tough wall to break down, I think, with people. And I think that's a big part of what's going on. Our head is just so filled with crap, but to think of changing it is even scarier than just doing the status quo. I mean, better the devil, kind of that saying, I think can apply here. And I think it's the most challenging part of having a middle-aged woman client, because we have tried a lot of things and we have not been successful in many of those things. And so being aware of that as a coach, I think, is the first thing. You got to understand who's sitting in front of you, and start there.
You can listen to people and just know who gets it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
listening to you, Susan, it is very clear, like from the speed of your answers after I ask a question, how quickly you talk through them, and just how spot on you are. Like, you know what you're doing. You've lived it. I love that.
Yeah.
Going
Hey,
back
I have no problem talking. So if I go on too much, just tell me to shut up.
I will not do that. That's what this is about. Like, it's your time to shine, girl. What I want to hear about is more about you. Like, you
Yeah.
said that you were doing
Yeah.
everything right. You said
Yeah.
you were clean eating.
Yep.
But at those times of doing everything right, were you where you wanted to be?
Oh, no, no.
Then
And you know, we can even rewind the clock back to the late 80s probably, where I did Jenny Craig, when Jenny Craig first came out. And I think it was the late 80s, maybe early 90s, something like that. I lost 50 pounds. And everybody's like, wow, that was great, man. That was successful. Well, you know, Jenny Craig, for people that don't know, is a weight loss company where you eat their food, right? They give you your food for the week, and that's kind of what you eat. And they were little trays like this big. And the stuff that I know now, if I were to look back at that, I would probably say on average, I was eating probably 1,100 calories, maybe 12, something in that neighborhood. So sure, I'm a rule follower. You tell me to eat this, I'm going to eat this. I did what they told me to do, and I lost 50 pounds. However, as the story continues, I didn't know how much I ate. I didn't know if there was any protein. I didn't even know about protein back then. So there was no talk of that. There was no talk of how many calories it was. That was a mystery. It
yeah.
was kind of like, here you go, eat that. And I remember a phase in Jenny Craig, and I know Jenny Craig is back again. And I don't know if they still do this, but as you kind of proceeded towards your goal and you got closer, they reduced what they didn't say this, but they changed what you ate and essentially reduced your calories even more to get the last however many pounds. So by the end, I'm eating maybe 1,000 if I was lucky. And all I remember is being hungry all the time.
Yeah.
And miserable, but I lost 50 pounds. So I'm thinking, cool, this worked, you know? And then for decades after that, I just gained and lost increments of that 50.
Right.
Sometimes I'd gain more and then I would lose some, because the only way I knew how to lose was basically not eat, you know, not eat very much. So there was nothing organized about it. I just basically was hungry all the time. I did what I learned from Jenny Craig is
So
take
what
my
changed?
course, which was, well, I did that yo-yo train for years. So I get to my mid 50s, early 50s. And I look down at my belly and lo and behold, guess what's there? I start seeing this belly and I'm like, wow, where the hell did this come from? You know, totally taken off guard like everyone. And really didn't even think about menopause at the time. Decided, oh, you know what? It's probably my metabolism. And then I started thinking about menopause. This is what's happening. So I'm just going to go get the blood work done, get the medication. It's going to help my metabolism, and off I go. You know, because at that point in my life, I was already a coach and I was humiliated by how I looked. I hadn't gained all 50 back. I was in a higher end. Like, I yo-yoed so much, I couldn't even keep track of it now. But at this point in time, I was on a higher end. So I had weight to lose without a doubt. And I was humiliated because I'm like, what kind of example am I setting? You know, I didn't even know what was going on with me, nothing. And so the doctor came back and said, your blood work is fine. And she just gave me this look and said, you know, if you really want to lose weight, you just need to eat less. And I burst into tears because, to her credit, she was the first person that ever addressed that to me. You know, I just thought I was doing everything right. I was the clean eater. I ate very clean foods. I ate so many almonds in a day that, you know, almonds are super healthy, right? So I just ate them. Well, they also have a lot of calories, which I
Yes.
wasn't even thinking about. And almonds are one of my great examples. But, you know, I would turn down birthday cupcakes in my school office. Even on my own birthday, I made an excuse why I wouldn't have a piece of my own birthday cake, for God's sakes, because I was afraid if I had that piece of cake, I would lose any progress that I had made, which was zero, by the way, but I couldn't see that at the time. And it was going to ruin everything. I mean, my relationship with food was just off charts wrong. And I saw everyone and they were celebrating and having this cake and they're saying, Susan, you were so disciplined. I want to be like you. And I was thinking on the inside, I just was screaming, I want to be like you. I want to enjoy the piece of cake.
Wow.
I really want that piece piece of cake, but I'm too afraid to have a piece of cake. So that kind of thing continued until literally I hired Jordan. And when I first went to him, I didn't sign up for nutrition because you could sign up for both. I just went with lifting because at the time I thought I wanted to power lift. And so he was the guy to go to. But I joined the inner circle and I started really applying his nutrition guidelines that he put out in the inner circle every month, which we still do, by the way. And I just started doing them on my own. And then we start talking more and more about him. And all of a sudden, I'm reading everything he's written and I'm watching all of his videos. And all of a sudden, everything changes. I mean, it felt like all of a sudden, but it wasn't all of a sudden.
Right.
I just feel like my life changed because I started to get it. I started to now get educated and understand what all of this crap meant for decades that was just ridiculous and what I really had to do. And most importantly, out of all of this, I finally had to be honest with myself, with keeping track of what I was consuming and not just thinking I'm consuming one amount. I had no idea until I started actually tracking what I was consuming. I'm like, holy shit, there's some room for improvement here, you know, and then started doing that and applying things. And, you know, he gave me structure and I just did it. And I didn't put up with my own bullshit, you know, of I don't want to do this. Or, I'm starting to see what this is doing to me now. This is what I want to do. And so, yeah, I've carried that through now to present. And were there challenges? Oh, yeah. I mean, menopause is crazy hard.
Mhm.
I mean, it just makes it so much harder. Postmenopausal is hard. I'm having this whole recent postmenopausal hormonal issues right now, which makes things hard. So it's a never ending gift, you know, gift that keeps on giving. But you
Well, let's
have
talk
to,
about that.
yeah, yeah.
That's something I haven't dove into a lot on the podcast or inside my communities is we talk a lot about perimenopause and menopause. We don't spend too much attention on post. So let's give it some attention. Like,
Yeah.
what are you experiencing right now and how are you going about that?
Interesting. I have some occasional symptoms that I had during menopause. Some night sweats have resurfaced here and there. And of course, when you have those, your sleep is completely interrupted and it could be multiple times a night. Mine haven't been so bad, but when I was in menopause, it was like not just once or twice, but 3-4 times a night. And you know, you're not getting quality sleep with that. I feel like brain fog has come back. I'll be talking and in the middle of it, it'll just be like, wait a minute, I don't even know where I'm going with this kind of thing. And that is troublesome to me. And those are just the two that I bring up right away. But there are other things. I'm having digestion issues for the first time, and that can be kind of triggered by hormonal issues as well. And even back in my 40s, when I was in perimenopause, I had vertigo symptoms, which I remember back in those days, I was sent to every specialist known to mankind to try to get a hold of these vertigo issues, these extreme fatigue. Like I could not function in school. I had to do half days for a long time.
Wow.
And here I look back at that. You know what that was?
Tell me.
I think it was all perimenopausal symptoms because all of that can be, right? But not one doctor ever mentioned that. I was sent to a neurologist, my ENT several times. They checked the heart because I had heart palpitations too. And I still have some of those now, but I have a AFib. I have been diagnosed with AFib, which is a whole nother separate thing. But all these things were happening then, you know, and no one ever talked to me about it. Now have some overlap with some of those things. So yeah, I went to my OB and I said, man, we gotta talk because I am unmotivated. I went through a period of, I couldn't get motivated to do anything. And that's so not like me. Something wasn't right. You know, and it's hard to say, well, it's just, I had a night sweat a couple times. No, it's more than that. The brain fog, all of the lack of motivation. I don't even know what else. I hate using the motivation word, but it was just everything is painted with the color gray, you know? And so it's hard to get excited about doing something. It's hard to start things. And all of this, as I've been learning more and more about postmenopause, can be part of what's going on.
Mhm.
It's not that common to have a lot of this. But so we're trying a little bit of hormonal therapy for me right now. It's very small because it's not recommended to go into this big hormonal treatment when you're my age,
Right.
but they have had a lot of success with people doing just small doses of things. And so that's kind of what we're playing with right now. Too early to
Wow.
know. I mean, I do feel like it's helped me in a lot of ways. So it's one thing to know that just after you hit that year mark, menopause is done. It's not really done.
No.
Symptoms can hang on for years.
You know what I see that I think really helps you specifically, and hopefully we have a few listeners that can take this as a positive takeaway, is you just seem like you're a big advocate for yourself. You find out what's going on, you decide, you know what, this is not how I want to be feeling. I don't think I need to be feeling this way. I'm going to do something about it. So I'm going to go see someone. And when I see someone, I'm not just going to take what they say as gospel. I'm going to challenge it and I'm going to speak up for what I think is right. Is that
Yeah.
true?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm feisty like that.
Yeah, I see that.
I went through when my mom and my dad too, when they both were declining in health, and they were elderly, I would go to doctor's appointments with them, and I saw doctors try to blow them off right
Mhm.
away, not
All the
listen.
time.
Yeah, and I would have nothing of it, and I didn't feel bad about it, whatever. And I felt like at a fairly recent doctor's appointment, I was getting a bit of a vibe of that from my doctor to me, and I'm like, no, nah, I'm not gonna leave here with you telling me that this is, this is what you do. No, 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 no. Something's not right. Something is not right. I know my body and I know myself better than anybody on this planet. Something
Yeah.
is not right. I'd like to know what it is.
Well, this is good because I spend a lot of time talking with our community, our clients, just any women we spend time with, and they'll go to the doctor, and very similar to what you just said, they'll say, "Doc, I'm experiencing XYZ from perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause. What do I do?" And a lot of times the doctor will just be like, "Yeah, well, sorry, Becky, you're in menopause, and that is just how it's going to go," and they get blown off. So let's help somebody kind of transform into a little mini version of Susan. Like, how do you advocate for yourself? How do you get past that?
Well, I told my doctor it's just not acceptable.
I love
I
it.
mean, it's not acceptable that my feeling was these issues are related to postmenopausal, menopausal scenarios,
Mhm.
and we need to look at those because that could mean that could mean additional blood work. I was not opposed to that. I even researched and asked some colleagues what would be an appropriate panel for me specifically to ask for. So I just don't go, can I have some blood work? Well, they could have you do blood work that has absolutely no,
Correct.
yeah. And I will say she did order the stuff that I asked. And lo and behold, we found that my LDL has shot through the roof I've never had high LDL in my entire life ever until 3 months ago. And that happens to be something that low estrogen will do.
Mhm.
And so here we go. I'm almost proving my own case. My A1C has started to creep up a little bit. I've never had an A1C problem in my entire life. Well, guess what else can happen with estrogen? Different levels of estrogen and how it can affect your A1C. I mean, it's crazy. So I thought I was going crazy, and I thought, holy crap, what is happening to me? Like, how can I haven't changed how I've eaten. And I guess what sent me through the roof is when I get comments written back, which I feel like have to be from her nurse and not her, because she knows me well enough she knows what I do for a living too. But the nurse comes back and said, exercise more, eat more fiber or something. I'm sorry, don't even go down that road
Yeah.
with me. I mean, do you know who you're talking to here? I mean, I work. I'm the person that you want to see come in your office at this age. So no, I don't need to eat more fiber. I don't. I don't need to exercise more. I'm
Yeah.
exercising a ton. And
It's just
so
cookie cutter answers.
yeah, yeah. And part of it is because they don't know,
Right.
and you know what? They can't know everything. And that's cool, but send me to somebody who might be able to. That's if this is not your wheelhouse, I'm cool with that. Just send me to the wheelhouse I need to go to.
Yeah.
And I'd almost respect them more if they would do that.
Well, you know what? It's like us as coaches. I work only with women 40, 50, and 60 plus. Does that mean every single woman on earth that's 40, 50, and 60 plus I can help? No, not at
Yeah.
all. There are things that I don't understand. And when that happens, I don't say, well, sorry, you've got to just fix your calories, get your protein in, hit your fiber, and go strength train. Like, no, I just say, hey, I don't think I can help you, but I bet you there's someone I know I can connect you to that can help.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, my goal is just to be helpful, whether that's
Yeah.
through coaching with me, through coaching with you, anybody. If I can accomplish that, I win.
100%. And I feel like we as a population of middle-aged women want to be heard too.
Mhm.
And that skill from motivational interviewing stuff is being the listener and then not only just listening, but but validating how somebody is feeling. Because I feel like once somebody feels like they've been listened to and someone understands, now the wall comes down, and now you're gonna be able to get more information out, and then you can really start to chat with somebody and find a way.
Building trust. I love it.
Yeah.
So you are very no bullshit. I know that Jordan is also very no
Yeah.
bullshit. I've
Yeah.
never met him. I follow him on Instagram. He's a great resource for
Mhm.
myself and for everybody that wants
Yeah.
to become better. What are some of the things that you and him preach specifically to these women 40, 50, 60 and older?
It's funny. He and I just recorded we call it Menopause 101 video for our membership. And he's very quick to say, she's taken most of this. I mean, she's taken the lead on this because he's very quick to say, I've never been through it or whatever. I've helped many, many, many women in it and through it, whatever. But he's very realistic about that. And I think people appreciate that. But we come at things like, at some point you have to hold yourself accountable because there's
Yes.
so much people listening to the emotion in their head, just chat away. And they just now decide they're going to follow all that shit. And now they're going down different roads. They quit really quickly. And one of our big messages is you won't fail if you don't quit. You have to keep going. That's it. That's it. And it's all the simple, basic stuff. We never promote any of the quick fixes, any of the things that everyone always wants to look for. And we always get that our calorie prescriptions always seem too high. Wow, they seem high, right? And so we have to come back with, well, they're high because let's look at what you've done before. You've done 1,100 calories and you couldn't lose weight on 1,100. Why? Because you weren't really eating 1,100. And let's go through why that is. And we break all the things down that the weekends, the mindless eating, all the things. You did 1,100 for maybe a day or two. And after that, all bets were off, because I don't blame you. It'd be all bets off for me too if I had to do that again. So it's that kind of stuff. And we just keep encouraging everyone in our group to just keep going, especially, the scale chatter in our group. I sometimes read through in our community space, people I've been at this for 2 weeks and we're like, 2 weeks is a drop in the bucket. It's not enough time to make kind of any judgment for anything. But especially this and that particular scenario, and you see it all the time, our age group, it was either the scale is up, that's really bad. If it's down, that's really good. There was no nuance to it. We didn't understand. So we come in there thinking the scale's up, I've gained fat. People just aren't educated that you can be gaining scale weight, but not fat. And people don't understand that it can be the reverse. They don't understand the difference between fat and scale weight, and man, we didn't grow up with the whole scale fluctuations stuff. Yeah. We didn't know what that was. And everything about the scale is only about fat. We forget that the scale is not measuring just fat. It's measuring bones, liquid, organs, everything, tendons, everything. It's not just about fat.
You just uncovered so much there. I love that. Number one, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself,
yeah,
if you're gonna give so much value to the first 2 weeks of a program, ask yourself, how long do you actually plan on doing it? Do you only want to do it for 6, or is this something that you actually want to last for a lifetime? Because you're gonna have not millions, thousands or hundreds of other 2 weeks left in your life. And so this is not like a finite game. This is something you want to play forever.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks isn't gonna matter.
It doesn't matter at all. And I equate that to, if you think about the stock market, you invest in the stock market, not for 2 weeks, but for the long haul. And the stock market, it goes up and down almost every single day. So you're not going to pull your money out at the first sign of, your stocks going down. No, you're going to look at the data. Okay. And then make note of it if you really track all that stuff, and then just keep going because you're in it for the long haul. Because, by the bigger picture, the long haul, you've got all of this time. Everything's going to happen. Stocks are going to be fine at the end of the road if you keep going, which is kind of the same thing, with the scale.
We are dollar cost averaging on the scale. I love it. I know you hired Jordan, I believe, because you wanted to enter powerlifting competition.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to hear about that, you powerlifting, but also what do you think about exercise for these ladies? Should we be powerlifting? Should we be running marathons? What's right? What's wrong?
I think honestly, I think they need to start with doing what they want to do. Because man, if you force it down their throats, something, it's not going to work. I never ended up doing powerlifting. I
Oh,
trained for a
interesting.
while. I thought I wanted to do that, but as I started working with him and I started seeing changes and stuff, I'm like, nah, you know what? I want to get my first chin up. That's way too important to me than doing a powerlifting meet. And then it became, I want to deadlift. I want to get to two plates. 225 was my first stop. I wanted to stop there, and then I wanted to do weighted chin up. And then I'm looking at the dumbbell rack and I'm like, I really want to row that 70-pound dumbbell. And now I'm like, I want to row the 100-pound dumbbell. That's how I don't care about powerlifting anymore. I just give myself these little performance goals that I chase personally. And it's been the most fun and rewarding not only physically, because it's changing how I look without a doubt, but it's just making working out something that's no longer working out. It's now training. It's more specific. I have a goal. I'm not just aimless. It's like when people say, I want to lose weight and build muscle. Well, doesn't the world really want to do that? I mean,
Right.
we all want to do all that. It's not specific enough for most people. You really need to give yourself some more specific goals. Maybe you want to get your first push up or whatever it is for you. But yeah, make your training more specific, and that's going to drive it. It's going to bring more intensity. It's just and it's going to be more fun. So I think middle-aged women need to find, first of all, what they love to do, and often what they love to do is maybe not what will actually change how they look, because so many people want to get rid of the fat and have some definition, the lean, the toned look, all the words that they call it, and that is not going to come from doing Orange Theory or something like that. Not to knock Orange Theory, that can be a great place for certain things, but maybe not for what most people want to do. And so I kind of approach people like, I want you to keep doing what you like to do, because I think if they feel like that's being taken away, then it's not going to be they won't do anything. So do what you want to do, but let's start with a couple days a week of, let's do some traditional strength training, very basic movement patterns, and let's start building a foundation where you can get stronger. And when they first start, they make progress pretty quickly.
Fast.
Right? And that becomes, oh, look at me now. Okay, hey, I kind of like this stuff, and then that confidence transfers into other aspects of their life, and then we start seeing the benefits. I think I can do 3 days now, and then we get that wheel turning. And that's what I think is the magic part for everybody, is to find that balance of, yeah, I think strength training should be a requirement. It's that important as you get older for longevity, quality of life, functional life, all the rest. So it's something that everyone should have to do 2 to 4 times a week. Start with 2 if you're brand new to it, start with, all of those kinds of things.
God, I mean, this is kind of a direction we go quite a bit on the show of strength training. How often should we do it? 2 to 4 times is across the board from every woman I talk to. Like, that's the magic bullet. One thing I love that you said, and so I recently just took a local client to the gym with me. We went through a strength training program together, and I was like, hey, what do you want to do in here? Like, what's your goal? She's like, Joe, I just really want to do pull-up. And for anybody watching the video of this, I smiled so big when you said you wanted to do a chin up, because I immediately thought of the amazing Tracy that I'm referring to right now.
Yeah.
And I explained to her, I was like, Tracy, that's awesome. Like, let me paint a picture for you. She's like, what? I was like, if you can do a pull-up, you'd better believe you're going to look like you can do a pull-up too. And that is exactly what you said. You're like, I started going after these performance-based goals, and lo and behold, body composition goals followed. So that's why I love those performance-based goals.
They do. And when I think it was during the pandemic, when we were all stuck at home for a while, I was doing this thing. I was kind of revamping my chin-ups. I hadn't really done a lot. I kind of veered away. My shoulder must have been acting up. I don't remember, but I veered away from chin-ups for a while. So now we're at home. I got this chin-up bar right outside my door here. So, we were in the pandemic, and I literally did a little grease groove with chin-ups, to the point where, man, I don't know how long it was after I started that. I ended up, I started putting weight on my chin-ups, and I was wearing weight on my back. And I ended up doing a 45-pound single.
No
one
kidding.
time. Yeah. I
Awesome.
haven't done that in a while. And so right now, getting back to that is a goal for me. And I have to play it carefully. My shoulder gets a little cranky. So, it's a little bit tougher to get there now than it was maybe 6 years ago when I did it, or whenever it was. But yeah, I want to get back to that.
One last thing I want to ask you is, you told me along that same conversation of performance-based goals, you're like, Joe, I was deadlifting 225. I eventually started to row a dumbbell of 70 pounds. And for those of you that get barbells and dumbbells confused, a dumbbell is the one you use in one hand, and you're rowing that with one freaking arm, which is awesome. You wanted to get to the 100. We have ladies that are throwing around 5s and 10s. this. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, in the beginning, you got to do what you got to do. But if you're using fives and tens a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, are we doing it right?
Yeah, you're not going to change much of anything, really. And a great example, I had my neighbor in here just yesterday, and she says, I'm really weak in my upper body. I just really want to get strong in my upper body again, and blah, blah, blah. And so I was setting her up to do a dumbbell row. I just wanted to see how she moved. And she goes, just give me the little 3 pound. I'm saying, no, I'm not going to give you a 3 pound dumbbell. I'm just not going to do it because you can do more than that. And she's like, I don't know. And, so I started with her a 5. And of course, a 5 is moving. Her form looked great. So we went down the rack here a couple times, and she ended up rowing like a 20-pound dumbbell out of the gate. And I'm like, you know what? See, this is a big problem. I feel like maybe guys have this too, but for women especially, you're stronger than you think you are. And that doesn't have to scare you, meaning you have to go to the end of the dumbbell rack and get that really, really, really heavy one. But it doesn't mean that you need a little 2 pound dumbbell, because that's really not going to change you in how you want to look. If you want to change how you look and get leaner, some definition and all the rest, that 5 pound dumbbell is really not going to, it's not going to help you. You've outgrown it already, essentially. Anyway, she left here completely amazed because I did that with her on 2 other exercises where she lifted way more than she thought. And it wasn't an outrageous amount, but she left here with confidence, like, oh my God, I am stronger than what I thought, And that, I was like, my job here is done because that's what I wanted her to leave here with.
It was the same thing with Tracy. As she
Yeah.
left with her shoulders back, her chest up, her head up, like, look at me. This is
Yeah.
awesome. And I think that nobody knows unless they try. And they just assume because they see a guy using the 20s or the 25s or the 30s, or they see their peers using the 5s, that they also have to use the 5s, or they can't use the 20s. When in
Yeah.
reality, if you go pick it up, I'll bet you can do it.
Yeah.
Susan, thank you so much for today. Where can people go to listen to you, spend time with you, learn from you? And is there anything else you want to leave the audience with before we wrap this up?
Well, I think the first thing I'd like to tell everybody is, regardless of what your goal is, and regardless of your age and where you're coming at, your past, all the rest, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. It's truly never too late. I am not anyone special. I do not have good genetics, despite what people have accused me of. I have a lot of health issues in my genes that I have to fight all the time. And so it's not been easy for me, but I'm a great example, not of anyone super talented or special, but someone that just worked hard and decided I wanted to do this, and I did it. And if I can do it, anyone can do it, and it's never too late. That's the big message. You can find me on Instagram. I have an extensive YouTube channel. You can find info there. I wrote a book about my story, kind of all the mistakes I made and how I turned it around into where I am today. And that's on Amazon, and it's called Fit at Any Age. It's Never Too Late.
Amazing. Susan, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great to see you.